So, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to today's DevOps.com webinar, brought to you by Techstrong and HCL Volt MX. My name is Cody J. Brown. I'm the host of Techstrong Learning. We have an exciting presentation ahead, but first I have a couple of housekeeping notes to cover. First, today's session is being recorded. So if you miss any of our discussion, maybe you joined late or you had to leave a little bit early, this event is being recorded and you'll be granted access to it pretty soon after we turn off or we conclude today's live seminar. You'll also find it living on the devops.com website. If you have any questions for our speakers, want you to direct those to the Q&A tab on the right side of the screen. And at the conclusion of our webinar, we will be giving away 4 $25 Amazon gift cards, so be sure to stick around. Our topic today is 5 pitfalls of low code and how to avoid them. I'm joined today by Gundar Daughter, Volt MX Director at HCL Volt MX, and Sharon Chin Li Ping, Senior Product Marketing Manager at HCL Software. So Gundar and Sharon, thank you both so much for being here with me today. I now give you the floor.
All right. Thank you, Cody.
Thank you, Cody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so, he mentioned that today's presentation is about the 5 pitfalls of implementing a low-code solution. And of course, we won't leave you hanging. We'll talk about how to avoid them. Cody gave a really wonderful introduction to the both of us. There was a slight change of plans today. You might have seen Adam, my coworker, in the promos, but he's unable to join today. But I promise to be just as entertaining and knowledgeable. So for the agenda today, we'll go through, a little bit of a low-code introduction. I've got some really cool stats to share about the market trends, spending most of today's presentations talking about the pitfalls and obviously how to avoid them. And lastly, Gundar and I represent a really cool low-code multi-experience platform called Volt MX. So I do want to squeeze in just a little bit of time to talk about that at the end of the presentation. And I do really love all the participants. Hello, and telling us where you're from. So keep that coming. I love seeing that and seeing where you guys are from. All right, so the rise of low code. The low-code development market really only began to take shape about a decade ago, but as of last year, it accounted for 44% of software development activity and even predicted to increase to 75% by 2025. So this dramatic shift that we're seeing is really pushing companies to join the low-code movement. But before you dive in and implement your solution, if you're interested, we really want to make sure that you're avoiding these common pitfalls that we see a lot. We have a lot of customers. We see a couple of these concerns that we want to bring up today. And the fun part is I'm going to start playing the skeptic here. I'm really trying to shut Gundar down, and he's going to try to debunk some of these pitfalls for us. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. Hey, I hear that low-code platforms have really limited customization. You pretty much get what the platform offers. What if I have complex solutions? What if I want to do, this and that? But it seems like low-code is pretty limiting.
Yeah, that's right, Sharon. In some cases, platforms will only offer a particular type of architecture output that you're going to get. They may start and use HTML5 for designing those screens, and then you do get to choose whether you want to output that in a native app or a browser, but at the end of the day, it's still a web UI. Nowadays, users are very discriminatory, and they expect more, quite frankly, from their application experience. And while HTML5 is a good standard to follow in terms of cross-platform and cross-device support, users obviously are going to want more. So it's really nice to be able to actually target device-level features and device-specific capabilities that folks are really used to using nowadays. So we go to the next slide. For example, Volt MX allows no limits on your app experience when it comes to development. If you want to put native widgets, native experiences, take advantage of animations and really rich offerings, and or even third-party libraries and modules that you want to bring in, Volt MX offers that capability today. Fully functionally native support, using any particular Android or iOS API that you wish to, all through using just a common language of JavaScript. as well as bringing to the table several pre-built components and pre-built widgets and templates that make it easier and faster to assemble your applications for your output, for your users and your customers, while also taking advantage of the latest and greatest technologies and capabilities like augmented reality, chatbots, and barcode support in today's applications.
Awesome. Hey, thank you for that, Gundar. Let's move on to the second bit, which is security. It's such a big thing, right? It seems like these low-code platforms have really limited security features, and you won't know about your vulnerabilities until it's way too late. So how do we talk about that?
Yeah, that is a big concern. Security is obviously at the forefront of every IT professional's mind nowadays. You see, read about data breaches all the time. And with everybody increasingly adding more information, personal information to the digital landscape, it opens up a lot of opportunities for security vulnerabilities to be introduced. And what customers really don't want to do is purchase a platform and then find out that the platform itself was not secure down the road, thus potentially opening them up to either risks or any other potential exploits that some malicious party may want to take advantage of. Now, it's come a long way in the last several years. Platforms have become more secure as customers have demanded that security be an inherent part of that platform capability and not leaving the burden up to them to be able to enforce it and implement it at deployment time. So, for example, VoltMX offers end-to-end security across both the client and the back end. It provides capabilities to lock down that application to make it much more difficult to reverse engineer or tamper with. It provides server-side capabilities, such as implementing controls to prevent things like SQL injection or man-in-the-middle attacks, taking advantage of the latest SSL TLS encryption capability, at the same time even leveraging potentially VPNs or other network reinforcement techniques to be able to protect your data. And then it maintains a number of annual security compliances to make sure that our customers are secure, knowing that our platform is tested and validated by third-party professionals in the security industry. From a front-end perspective, developers need to be able to help prevent that app from being hacked or tampered with that could end up potentially opening up liabilities or security vulnerabilities in the back-end systems. VoltMX offers default protection out of the box that locks down that binary, encrypts the code, obfuscates the code, and even injects false code so that some malicious party is going to have a really hard time trying to get at the insides of that application. Now, if you were to take and write an app from scratch, as a developer, you might normally have to implement this all on your own, or look to third-party products out there that you would have to incorporate into your build process and deployment process that just adds time and resources to the project. Whereas we offer these features out of the box, all just through checking a box within the development tooling, and it saves a lot of time and offers that protection at no extra cost to our customers.
Awesome. So integrations, that's a huge piece. And it just seems way too complicated to have that be handled in a low-code platform, right? I think a ton of companies have, SAP systems, a bunch of backend systems. And how would a low-code platform kind of handle all that for me?
Well, that is some of the challenges. You have customers with a range of both legacy backend systems as well as modern day web services architectures that you may have to leverage and bring together in the concept of a mobile app. And so many platforms do offer some sort of integration capability to these backends. However, depending upon the age of that platform, their range of integration options might be limited. Newer platforms tend to go with the latest and newest technologies of how integration is done. So you'll often see REST services, for example, supported across the board. XML and web services, also SOAP services. However, when it comes to older legacy systems, something like maybe a JD Edwards from a few years back, sometimes only the way you get in is through, say, a Java SDK. Now, how do you put that burden on the app developer to figure out how to get that data in and out of that back end when all they're working with is a set of tools on the front end that may not necessarily be able to talk to that natively? Well, for example, VoltMX brings to the market a middleware component that offers a library of connectors that allows a developer to go in and just using a browser, be able to configure and set up how these endpoint connections are made to those backend systems. It makes it much easier for an app developer to go in, can make that connection to their SAP environment or their Oracle backend or their older MQ series backend, and be able to just configure how that data is made available to their mobile app and exposes it all as a common set of REST services. So that way, from the app developer perspective, they are using the latest and greatest technology. They are using REST services, but it's all handled in the middleware to be able to transform that data, format that data, as well as make that data optimized for an app to consume. And through a configuration rather than coding exercise, it saves, again, a really significant amount of time and effort when it comes to integrating. We've seen analyst reports talk about sometimes as much as 75% of the development effort goes into the integration of an app. And so having something like a middleware component like Volt Foundry as part of the VoltMX platform, be able to handle that burden and offload that from the app developer makes a significant time savings and effort when it comes to putting that app out there quickly. Just a preview of some of the library of connectors out there. VoltMX offers a full range of integration features, allows to go in and configure that through just a browser interface. And again, it covers so much of the source code that you would normally have to write from scratch, having to process and manage that data within the app, that it saves a significant time and effort in terms of getting that app out faster to market.
All right. So this one is a big one in regards to shadow IT, right? When it's low code, it just seems like anybody and everyone could be building apps within the organization. Do you really want the marketing folk here building apps without governance? So how would we address the issue of shadow IT by implementing a low-code solution that everybody could use in an organization?
Well, that's an interesting point, because the idea behind low-code platforms is to make development easier. You want to be able to get that app out more quickly. You don't want necessarily have to go and hire expensive developer resources to go and get that done. So the low-code platforms really at their core function are supposed to do just that, make the development activity easier so that you don't necessarily have to have as many technical resources on a project. The drawback, or one potential pitfall, like you say, is, well, now you have the opportunity for everybody to be building an app within an organization. You've got Sharon over here putting up a quick app for her marketing team to go and use. You've got Gundar over here putting an app together for the sales team to go and use. Now, normally your IT department is going to be controlling the standards and the code quality and be able to make sure that app is properly supported once it's out in the wild. When Sharon's app breaks and there's an issue, she may not necessarily be able to always go and be the tech support to go and fix that app. She's got a day job to run on top of all that. Same with Gundar. He's got to go sell some software. He's not going to be able to spend time debugging and troubleshooting code. So you want to make sure you have some sort of controls in place so that you don't end up with a lot of just stale apps or wild apps out there that aren't properly controlled, managed, and supported to help make sure that those enterprise critical apps are continuing to make sure that the business functions work well. So the result of this is that platforms have evolved over time, and they've become much more accommodating to IT processes, say, for example, continuous integration and continuous deployment, to be able to help manage and control how those apps are built, released, tested, and then also maintained and supported once they're out there in production. You have platforms now are also adhering to corporate design standards, making sure that, for example, material design or Apple's human interface design guidelines are followed, as well as making sure that the company's corporate marketing standards are also adhered to from a branding, a messaging, and a look and feel perspective. And then also making sure that platforms also access that backend data consistently and also securely. You don't want a low-code platform out there potentially opening up security holes, because Gundar in sales really doesn't know the ins and outs of the Okta system that's in the back end. But oh shoot, we've got to make sure that we use that system to make sure that everybody authenticates securely to our enterprise. I don't know how to do that, but some of these low-code platforms may make it easy. But at the same time, IT may have their own method and process to make sure that all proper users are vetted and authorized to make sure that they have access to those systems. So when you look at low-code platforms, for example, like VoltMX, you have the ability to go ahead and support these existing processes, and you can go ahead and build this out, Sharon. So here's an illustration of a common continuous integration and continuous deployment process. You have your developers will check in their code to their source control, and you're going to have some sort of usually a build engine like a Jenkins, for example, that goes out there and performs the checkout process of the code, creates the builds of those applications, and then also communicates that information out to the team as a whole. Now, you may also have some sort of automated test process set up, and there's many tools out there in the marketplace that support these. And so you can able to script, deploy applications to, say, for example, a device farm in the cloud, and then be able to download those applications, run them through automated testing, and be able to report on those tests. And all of this is designed to really automate it so that it saves time and you don't have to have as many human beings involved in the process. It also produces consistent results, as well as be able to put a structure and process in place around how those enterprise applications are released to make it much more safer for the users from an IT security perspective, as well as a much more consistent experience from a user experience, as well as a much more messaging, consistent messaging that the marketing folks are going to want to put out there as part of those apps. Mm-hmm. Now, VoltMX fits into this process very, very nicely. You can go to the next slide. So VoltMX provides a number of capabilities that allow the platform to be able to accommodate the IT requirements for governance when it comes to CI/CD processes. VoltMX uses open source tooling like Node and Ant and Gradle, and as well as all the scripting behind that, so that it's common and can be plugged into these CI/CD build platforms very, very straightforward, because they often use these tools as part of their frameworks. All of the artifacts produced by the platform, by the VoltMX platform, are human readable source code. It is also in the format of text-based files that are used by these tools, so that when you go to execute a build, there's nothing exotic or proprietary there that's going to be something that's not maybe necessarily known to folks who are very familiar with system configuration and configuration management processes. So things like Ant and Gradle and regular iOS build scripts and build properties files, everything is familiar to folks who use those tools. We also use those tools within the platform. So it's an easy transition and an easy integration into that output. The Volt Foundry middleware produces service configurations that are all human readable formats. So XML, JSON, text files. And then it also offers a command line tool that can be executed as part of a batch script, say when you want to move those service configurations from a development to a test to a production environment. We offer that tooling that can be executed at the command line, so that somebody like a Jenkins engine could come in and go ahead and do that in an automated fashion. So this way we can help those companies and those customers know that we're going to play nice in their IT sandbox. And if they have existing IT processes and governance standards in place, we're going to go ahead and be able to fit in just nicely and play well on the playground.
Right, that's important. And here is our last bit of me being a skeptic. Just really worried about vendor lock-in and limiting the adaptability, right? Do you guys have proprietary languages that now I have to go learn? I do not want to worry about vendor lock-in.
Yeah, that is a big concern, and it's a question that I've run into personally quite a bit, just talking to prospects out there. Is, you know, some of these platforms, they're not really sure what goes on behind the scenes. So if I commit to one of these products, you know, what am I in for long term? Am I going to be able to transition that app to another, you know, say tool or platform in the future should my IT needs change? And that's a valid concern. You know, nobody wants to lock themselves into technology that then they're beholden to, and then it may be expensive to get out from under. Well, you're going to make that decision no matter what type of IT product you're going to look at, whether it's anywhere from a database backend to some sort of middleware solution to maybe some sort of application front-end development. You're all going to have some sort of vendor brand you're going to commit to as part of it. I think what's more important to look at is what kind of technology that vendor is using to be able to produce the output from that platform, and whether that's going to create any sort of lock-in concern. So now if you look at something like VoltMX, for example, we use as part of our build inputs all just industry standard stuff. It's JSON, it's JavaScript, it's HTML, it's CSS. We also have the opportunity to use native code. So if you write your own Android native or native iOS code, again, we're not doing our own iOS flavor. It's all just regular Apple standard Xcode or Swift that you can bring into your application. All of these industry standards we currently support and use within the platform. So you're not having to do some sort of special one-off or special subset of functionality. It's all just standard code. And then we just add our API on top of that. The result of this is that you have an output that is a standard IPA file. It's a standard APK file. It's going to go play nice in the app stores. You can distribute it through an enterprise platform. You know, there's no issue there with in terms of producing something that's not necessarily up to the standards of Apple or Google. Our web applications run on a J2EE framework. So it's a web application archive that is just like any other J2EE web archive that gets deployed to a J2EE architecture. So again, nothing proprietary, nothing black box there. From a Vault Foundry, when it comes to configuring those services, again, from an input perspective, you're looking at XML and JSON and JavaScript. And then if you want to go and have to write some Java code, that's okay. It's standard Java code. There's nothing proprietary or obfuscated from that. Now, moving forward, let's say you use VoltMX and say 10 years from now, you want to switch to something else. Well, the result is that all the outputs from our application development process are all human readable, and it's all available for you to be able to take and then use in a tool going forward. Now, just like you can't necessarily take and transform an Android app project into an iOS app project, you're not going to be able to do the same with us. And all other platforms operate in the same fashion. They all have their own front-end IDE or tool, and they all have their project inputs in some sort of format. And there's not any sort of magic wizard out there that goes and converts all these from, say, one tool to the other to the other. It's just, we're not going to, most vendors just don't provide that type of capability. We're no different in that regard, but what we do provide is the ability for you to take and have nothing hidden from you. All of that app definition is available. You're able to go and recreate that in the tool of your choice in the future. And this way, you're not locked into what we provide. You have all that information available to you so that you can take and move forward with it when you go to improve that in the future.
All right. Thank you, Gundar. So, we're really trying to keep this in 20 minutes, going through these pitfalls. But, we really hope that we covered some of this, and just don't let these pitfalls hold you back, right? We did a custom study with Forrester late last year. And, 68% of decision makers actually consider adopting low code as their top 3 IT priorities. So it very much is this irreplaceable tool that leaders are now implementing in their organization. And obviously, you have any other concerns, maybe, the list could be more than 5 of these concerns. We are more than happy to talk through them with you and address some of that. So that leads me to just, we've talked about VoltMX a whole lot. Gundar kind of threw in a lot of examples of how other people do it versus how we do it. But so this is just my little bit of a pitch. We've been recognized by Gartner and Forrester. We've been here for a while. We have a global presence of more than 20 countries, customers in more than 20 countries. And we really serve all use cases and industries that I have over here on the right. So with that, there are kind of 2 calls to action that I wanted to share with everyone today. If you are more so a hands-on person, possibly a developer on the call today, we do have a 30-day free trial for you to go in and actually play with our platform. It's unlimited everything. There's no freemium model that we are unlocking. You do get the full capabilities in the 30 days. So I'll have that QR code there for a quick second before moving on to my next call to action, which is, for those who are not the developer types, or you don't quite understand, you have an app solution that you need built, but not ready to jump in and do any of that work. We do have a really awesome services team. We actually have a studio engagement where we've helped customers bring their app to life in actually 8 weeks, and that is kind of a guarantee from VoltMX that your first app can be built in 8 weeks. So I have left that QR code there, as well as the link to the Contact Us form to learn more about that.
And Sharon, if I could ask you to put you on the spot here just real quick, what if there's a business partner out there that has a low-code practice and would like to maybe look at using VoltMX as part of their low-code implementations?
Oh, that would be...
Can they go to the same barcode here and be able to get information?
That would be wonderful. We are always recruiting business partners, right, to help us with our platform. So absolutely, I've left this contact link right there. It's a generic contact us form. So yeah, business partners, actively recruiting for those. If you might be one on the call, I'm happy to hear from you as well. All right, and that comes to the end of our presentation. I'm sharing my screen, so I don't see if we kept it in 20 minutes, maybe a little bit over. I'll turn it over to anybody in the audience that might have a question for us. I do really love seeing how global of an audience that is coming through here. There's people from Italy, from France. That's really
I see someone from
cool.
Cameroon. That's awesome. That's a
Yeah.
long ways from where I'm at.
And Gundar, you have a fan. I don't know if
Apparently so. Well,
You
I
have a
appreciate that. Thank you.
there was a call out there, and Gundar has done a couple of these with Techstrong here, so maybe you have accumulated a little bit of a fan club. All right, so I'm not really seeing any questions. I'm gonna leave it on for maybe 20 more seconds, and then maybe Cody, you want to come back in and do your gift card announcements.
I can go ahead and give away those gift cards, and then if you guys have any questions for us, go ahead and send those in now. But so this is for 4 $25 Amazon gift cards. Our first winner is Tom K. Our second winner is Kismet S. Our third winner is Geetha S. And our fourth and final winner is Rainer G. So congratulations. Please keep an eye on your inbox to claim that gift card. And if you don't receive an email, just check your spam folder. And I'll also take this opportunity to remind our audience that the session was recorded. So following the webinar, you'll receive an email with a link to access the recording on demand. And you can also find it on the DevOps website. So Sharon, I am not seeing any more questions. So anything on your side before we close out?
No, we're good. We're good. I mean, Gundar, do you?
No, I just want to say thank you to everybody who attended today. Thank you, Cody, for hosting this. Thank you, Sharon. Did a wonderful job today and appreciate your time today. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one, everyone. And thank you for joining us today.
Cheers.
Well, thank you, Gundar and Sharon. I really appreciate you taking the time to put together the presentation and for rehearsing and coming on, because it had such a good flow today. So I really appreciate the thought that went into this. I would like to also thank HCL Voltim X for sponsoring today's webinar. And my final thanks goes to you, our audience. Thank you for spending some time with us today. Please take a moment to fill out our post-webinar survey, and we hope to see you at an upcoming Techstrong Learning webinar. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.